Yeah, I know this is something I don't typically talk about, but I'm gonna blabber about it quite a bit today. I was recently talking about Saudi Arabia after their purchase of EA, going into detail about how they are gluttonously buying up basically everything thanks to their infinite money that they have at their disposal. They're basically playing life on admin mode. Like they've entered this era where they just have so much money and now they're using it to buy everything. And I've talked about my own personal experience seeing that firsthand in the esports space. They fundamentally own esports. They've got the entire industry on nipple clamps right now thanks to the money they pump into it because it's an industry that is deprived of it and they are starving, malnourished when it comes to finances. And then Saudi Arabia has swooped in with that supple teat that they're allowing all the orgs to suckle from. Thus, they now basically have esports in a stranglehold, a fucking full Nelson, really. And this is extending to basically everything in the entertainment and tech sector. And most recently, I'm sure a lot of you saw, there was a Saudi Arabian royal family backed Riyadh comedy festival where basically every comedian with a pulse got paid a bag to go perform in Riyadh. And pretty much all of them did it with a big old smile on their face. And now that they've finished it, they're doing their best mental gymnastics to justify why it's actually not a big thing and they're not hypocrites for doing it. For those that don't know, Saudi Arabia has a multitude of human rights violations. One of the biggest ones that make the comedians in particular look like hypocrites is their complete disregard for freedom of speech. Like, that doesn't exist there. They execute people for some of the things they say. There are so many notable examples of it. And Dave Chappelle, in particular, has just released a little statement that I think is so laughably delusional that I cannot help but shoot spitballs at it, which is so painful because growing up, Dave Chappelle was such a big part of my childhood, as I'm sure many others. But this is just not the same guy. He has been replaced by a fucking skinwalker. He unironically said that it's easier to talk in Saudi Arabia than it is in America. If that isn't the dumbest fucking thing I've heard of since Hawk Tuacoin. Dave, to even perform there, you signed a contract that expressly forbid you from talking about or joking about things that may be considered to degrade, defame, or bring into public disrepute, contempt, scandal, embarrassment, or ridicule Saudi Arabia, its ruling government, royal family, or any religion or any religious figure, period. This comes from a comedian that was offered to perform, but said no, which is apparently very rare because not many comedians had the wherewithal to say no. They didn't have the strength. So this contract was leaked, revealed to everybody from a comedian named Atsuka Okatsuka. Hopefully I said that name correctly. She got the invitation, the contract to go, and declined. She refused, and then revealed all of the stipulations that were put in the contract in the first place to ensure people were gagged on the things they were allowed to joke and talk about there. So all the comedians preaching about like how free they felt to speak, they literally signed a piece of paper binding them to ensure they wouldn't talk about a lot of things. So these are things that you are literally not allowed to talk about, Dave. You muzzled yourself just to even attend, to even accept that bag of money. It came with the stipulation that you would not talk about these things. It was fucking forbidden, Dave. Yeah, it's so easy to talk there as long as you agree to not talk about this laundry list of shit that they don't want you to talk about. And Dave, maybe you didn't read the contract. In fact, I'm confident you didn't. So what if you did end up talking about things they didn't want you to talk about? What would have happened? Would you have ended up like one of the many people who were sentenced to death for criticizing the government or making like, what they deem to be destabilizing remarks? Because that's something that Saudi Arabia still does pretty often. Like even in 2025, there's been a lot of executions, and one of them was a journalist who had made posts talking about corruption in the Saudi Arabian regime. His name was Turki al-Jassar, and he recently was put to death on June 14th after being accused of terrorist crimes, including destabilizing the security of society and stability of the state, which, you're not going to believe this, Dave, there was no evidence for those alleged crimes. But don't worry, his family did at least get to visit him before they took his life, but his family wasn't informed that they were going to kill him. That was just a little surprise they sprung up. They also haven't got his body, by the way, either. Weirdly enough, Dave, it seems like his crime was talking. I don't know, man. There's just so many things there that are just giving me this inkling of a suspicion that it's not exactly as easy to talk there as you like to claim that it is, man. I don't know. There's just little birdies out there saying that it's not exactly super easy to talk in Saudi Arabia. You just happen to agree not to talk about the things that they didn't want you to. Brother, this is just so fucking see-through. Why don't you just be honest and say that the money they offered was too much to turn down? At least that's honest. At the very least, you're being honest. Like, Bill Burr's trying the same fucking mental gymnastics too, as opposed to just admitting, yep, I took the money, I know it makes me a hypocrite, don't care, it was a lot of money to perform for like a day or two or whatever. Like, you might as well just be honest. You've already fucking done it. There's really nothing you can say to be like, actually, this place fucking rocks. This is like all about, we get to joke about what we want and have a good hoot and holler. Because that's just so blatantly wrong. It is so provably false. There are so many things you can pull from to show all of the ways in which that is just not the case. Like, come on. People have the internet at their fingertips. They can easily just Google Saudi Arabia, like, speech laws or something. And you will find instantly, by the way, Turki Al-Jasser, who was just executed, he has been incarcerated for 7 years because of his crime of talking about things they didn't want discussed. And he was even allegedly tortured before they just recently executed him. Like, people can easily find this information, and yes, it does make you hypocrites. Because Dave Chappelle is someone that's, in this statement here, talking about how hard it is to make jokes in America because you might get canceled. And sure, fair enough, that is something that has been going on in America for a while now, and it super sucks. Unfortunately, it's only becoming more and more common now, too. It's fucking terrible. But, in Saudi Arabia, you don't just get canceled, you get canned. You get sent to meet your maker if you talk about things that they don't want discussed. Here, the worst thing that's gonna happen to Dave fucking Chappelle if he gets, like, canceled is he'll lose, like, a show. But then he'll make up for it with a $50 million Netflix special and 100,000 new fans because people usually will support someone that gets, like, a show taken away because they said a joke that was too raunchy or something. Whereas the worst thing that'll happen to Dave Chappelle in Saudi Arabia if he did decide to go rogue off book and start criticizing like the royal family and talking about corruption and shit, they might have fucking imprisoned him and maybe down the line killed him. Because they have a track record of doing that. Maybe not someone to Dave Chappelle's size, they probably wouldn't do that because they know that would be such an international incident, but to just paint the picture, that is something they do there and actively continue to do, showing no signs of stopping. And yet Dave has the chutzpah to try and claim that it's easier to talk there than here. Fucking crazy, man. I almost feel like part of the contract had to be like brainwashing of these comedians too, like literally just forcing them to spit shit out for them, just vomit like tourism brochures. Because Bill Burr, after coming back, is like, oh my god, this was life-changing, calling it a top 3 experience he's had. It was a great experience, that part of the world, and to be part of the first comedy festival over there in Saudi Arabia. The Royals loved the show. You don't say. They loved it? Damn, Bill, that's crazy that they happened to love it. Everyone was happy. The people that were doing the festival were thrilled. Great news, man. I'm super happy to hear that it went really well for the Saudi Arabian Royals there. I was worried. I was a little nervous that the sets might kind of not go over really well there, but I'm happy to hear it was a home run with the Royals. God, Bill Burr's defense of it is almost as fucking stupid as Dave Chappelle's. You think everyone's going to be screaming death to America and they're going to have like fucking machetes and want to chop my head off, because this is what I've been fed about that part of the world. Who are you even talking to? Like addressing with this? A ghost? Like what? Who is actually expecting you to go over there and be met with machetes and people screaming death to America? They paid you unfathomable money to be there for a day, Bill. They're probably not going to be trying to chop your head off screaming death to America. You are there as a helpful, useful puppet on their strings that they are feeding money to dance because it is supposed to help them with tourism. This is put on by their fucking, like, tourism arm here. And also to help obfuscate a lot of the bad stuff going on over there. Of course they're not going to make you have a horrible time, Bill, by waving machetes around. What are you talking about? What a crazy unhinged statement. So Bill, before getting there, thought he was going to be met with machetes and people screaming death to America? Really? That was the impression you were under? Also, the way he talks about Saudi Arabia, like what he describes, I think is just like extremely fucking weird. Is that a Starbucks next to a Pizza Hut, next to a Burger King, next to a McDonald's? They got a fucking Chili's over here. I had to stop a couple times during the show and say, I'll be honest with you guys, I cannot fucking believe any of you have any idea who I am. It was just this great exchange of energy. They know their reputation, so they were extra friendly. How is that anything beyond, like, a full-blown insult? Is Bill just a big fucking idiot or something? Like, how oblivious is he to the world around him? He's talking about Saudi Arabia like he's talking to children, like, I cannot believe you guys even know who I am over here. He expected them to not have, like, electricity or internet or something? Like, why wouldn't they know who you are, Bill? You're one of the biggest names in the world. Why would you think they wouldn't know who you were? He talks about this, like, it's just, I'm not taking crazy pills, right? Like, this is a super odd thing to say. He took this money, and as he's going over there, he thought he was going to be met with machetes and people coming for his skull saying, death to America. He gets there, and now he's, like, raising an eyebrow, shocked, saying things like, you guys have a fucking Chili's over here? What are the odds? Over here, in this part of the world, you have a Chili's? It's just so weird. Like, again, if Bill would just say, like, look, I'm a hypocrite, I took the money, I couldn't resist, I put my hand in the cookie jar. I was too tempted. It is what it is. At the very least, he'd be being honest. Like, there's more dignity in that than what he's trying here with these statements. It's fucking crazy. Now, I don't want to just insult all the comedians that went. That would be a 10-hour video, because every comedian went, basically. There were a few that didn't, and I want to give flowers to one in particular, Shane Gillis. Shane Gillis has been on a meteoric rise for over a year now, where he's become one of the biggest names in comedy. And Shane Gillis, according to him, was offered a bag to perform at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. But he turned it down. He even did make a statement saying that he took a principled stand and declined the offer to perform at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Now, he's not the only one that said no. I already mentioned Atsuko Akatsuka. She's the one that actually revealed the censorship rules in the contract that we talked about earlier. But it seems like the overwhelming majority of comedians that received the offer accepted it, seemingly without a second thought crossing their mind whatsoever. Even some of the comedians that claim to be very supportive of free speech, putting a huge emphasis on it as part of their materials in their sets about how important it is, like Jimmy Carr, well, they couldn't resist either. Fucking Jimmy Carr was a co-headliner for this. Really stuck to your guns on that one, eh, Jimbo? And he's far from the only one. If you look at the people that perform there, many of them you've probably seen frequently posting about how wrong it is that people will face, like, punishments and stuff because of, like, what they might post online or, like, jokes or whatever. But they're totally fine taking money from Saudi Arabia, a place that literally has executed people for their opinions and things that they say online. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? Until you realize that those comedians, they don't actually believe any of this shit, it seems. They're more than willing to fold on all of this as long as they get paid enough money. It was pretty uncommon to see people say no. And Shane Gillis is right now at, like, the height of popularity for comedians. And he, I have to imagine, got a crazy, crazy, crazy offer to go, but still said no. And I just find that to be amazing. I'm really happy to have learned that Shane Gillis wasn't there. But I was very disappointed to see many of those that were. All of the comedians that turned down the offer, I think, deserve, like, a very strong round of applause, because they actually do practice what they preach when it comes to free speech and the importance of it. Meanwhile, all the comedians that love to yap about principles and all that for their sets and then still went to Riyadh Comedy Festival, seems pretty clear that it's all a bunch of fucking horseradish from them. To me, at least, it seems pretty clear that they're just fucking sellouts that don't actually believe in the things they pump their fist about and joke about on stage or anything. It's all just phony baloney performative, and as long as you give them enough money, it's not like a principle they're gonna stand by. They'll just go take the money instead. Oh, something else I really want to mention, and I know I've already been blabbering about this for a while. Tim Dillon is another comedian who initially accepted the offer, and then on his own show was poking fun at it in saying, like, they use slavery over there and that he's willing to turn the other cheek because the money was so much, that kind of thing. And they fired him for it. So The implication is, when you accept the deal from Saudi Arabia, you then also have to censor yourself in America too, and just constantly promote Saudi Arabia and the regime. So even on your own show in America, you were still needing to be a full-blown Saudi Arabian shill. So everyone that went is just so fake, such hypocrites, and they are now just fully shills for Saudi Arabia. They're just so fucking fake, man. It's crazy. I'll stop blabbering about it. I know it's been a little bit already, but it's so sad. It's pathetic. It really is. Anyway, that's really about it. So yeah.